Kia ora, how do I? Welcome everybody who's jumping into this webinar. It's great to have you all. It's very exciting. Feel free to leave your cameras off or whatever. This webinar is going to be recorded, so it'll be viewable on demand, and I'll share the link to that probably next week by the time we've uploaded it. So these webinars will be recorded. If you want access to the slides, I put a bit.ly link there at the bottom. And if you have any questions at all, please post them in the chat, any comments or questions. I've got my colleague and friend Jess as the admin, so she will be there to help you all if anyone needs anything. We'll just be tag teaming this. I'll be the one whose face is on the camera the entire time, but Jess will be in the background looking after you all. So if you need anything, just put a comment in the chat for her. I'm just going to give people a couple of minutes because it's clear that people are still arriving. So welcome everybody. How do I? It's great to have you all. It's been wonderful to see just how many people have been interested in these short webinars. It just feels like the right kind of thing for right now when everyone's stuck at home, to just do little short bite-sized things. And the intention with these are just to introduce you to some fun free digital tools that you can have a play with for yourself, and that you can hopefully introduce your friends and anybody you work with to. They're all very accessible and they all have a very low floor, so easy to get into, easy for people with very little experience to try for themselves. But equally, they have all of the tools that I'm going to share have a high ceiling, so massive potential if you want to push your creative limits with it. So feel free to jump into the slides if you haven't already. There's a bit.ly link there, and that should give you viewing access to all the different slides. And there's all the information you need in there. I'll be going down through the slides and clicking on things. Lots of the pictures have got links attached to them that might not be obvious when you first look at the slide, so feel free to click around randomly and see everything. Link for slides in chat, please. Great. Excellent. Hopefully Jess can, or maybe I can just copy and paste this bit.ly link. Let's go back. Someone let me do it here. Maybe Jess can post the bit.ly link. That'd be great. There we go. Jess has done it. Thanks, Jess. Excellent. Looks like we've still got a couple of people entering the meeting room from the waiting room. Thank you everyone for your patience. We're going to get going imminently, and yeah, I'm really excited to get to share all this with everybody. It's this was originally the original idea of this was it was going to be a series of workshops around the country. It's going to go to a few different places and deliver this content in person. And due to COVID, obviously the travel plans have been cancelled, but it's really lovely that I get to interact with so many people all at the same time. I've had over 200 people register for these webinars, so that's really exciting, and hopefully lots more people will get the recorded content as well. So yeah, I probably said the wrong word, didn't I? There's a lot of you. I'm a little bit nervous, but that's all right. I might mince my words slightly. I'm going to try and talk not too quickly for you all. Excellent. All right. So here we are. I'm going to start the webinar series, and I'm going to start with karakia, timatanga. You're very welcome to join in at home if you like. This is a karakia that was given to us when we, Jess and I, were actually working alongside the Kia Takitu and Matahiko team to deliver some digital readiness programs to teachers around the country. And it's just a nice karakia, opening ourselves up to new knowledge and new information. So I'm going to start with this. Tēnei te Māori ka piki ake ki te rangi etu nei. He rangi atua, he rangi tikua, he rangi tāpito. Kia whiti ko te mātaraka. Kia tau ko te maramatanga. Whaia kia tata, kuratia kia mau. Haumie, huie, taikia. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to start with an introduction. Kuwai matau, who are we? And I have a really short mihi, which I actually recently put together from doing some research for these webinars as well. So no koterana me ingarangi oku tipuna kei te noho au ki Pōneke ko Donald James toku ingoa. So my ancestors are from Scotland and England. I now live here in Wellington, and my name is Donald James. And so mihi and tepiha, fantastic way that we should all be able to introduce ourselves in New Zealand. And it's a lovely way to think about who we are, what our identity is, what we're connected to. And this image here in the middle is from a website, pepeha.nz, which you can put together and download a low resolution or get it printed out nice and beautifully. And over on the side here is a screenshot of my mihi, which I made using Gamefroot, which I'm going to show you how to do in this session here. And you can play through my mihi as you like and get to know me better by clicking on the link there. So I am currently a learning innovation specialist at Te Papa. I've been working at Te Papa for just over 5 years. And my job is really about helping people to be curious about the world, ask their own questions, and find their own answers to things. And we use quite a lot of digital technology in our learning programs at Te Papa because it's fun and allows people to create things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to create. So the nice thing about this is a really quick timetable of what we're going to be doing. So today, this afternoon, we're going to start with Mihi Maker. Later on, we're going to do stop motion animation, SculptGL, Tinkercad, Sketchfab. Hopefully, lots of you will come along to lots of these. Why use digital technology, especially in the learning context? The world is changing. There's a lot more digital technology out there, and it really rules our lives. We are surrounded by it all the time. So it's really good to understand what it is, how it works, why it works the way it does. And it's good to learn about this technology. Being able to think computationally and understand the machines that we interact with on a daily basis helps us to not just be subservient to them, not act in ways that suit the machines. We want the machines to suit us. And in the learning programs that we deliver at Te Papa, anyway, we find that digital technology enables lots of really great collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. And the tools that I'm going to be sharing with you today, we always get students and learners to work collaboratively on. So we never do one-to-one devices. We find that just leads to lots of frustration and problems. We always get students to work together on things, and then you end up with learners who are communicating about things, who are doing their own problem solving, who are getting creative in new ways, and it's really beautiful. It's a really nice way to do learning. Just making sure that there's nothing in the chat that I need to answer. Great, awesome, doing fine. Next slide. All right. So the main thing that we have found with digital technology is that you have to use it in authentic contexts. And the word authentic can be a little hard to interpret sometimes, but it needs to be meaningful contexts for the learners themselves. It's the first 3 words in every progress outcome in the revised digital technology curriculum. So it's really, really important. So there's no point in reaching for the digital tools unless you have a context to use, first of all. So the context that I'm going to be talking about in this whole series are both Conservation Week and Tutti Te Reo Māori. They're coming up, they're next month. They're both really excellent contexts to use. So I will try and relate all of these tools to how you might look at integrating them into these contexts. Feel free to come up with your own contexts and to let me know if there's any context that you're working on that you would like to think about ways you want to use digital technology. So here we go, diving in with Mihi Maker with Gamefroot. So Mihi Maker by Gamefroot is it's an online tutorial using Gamefroot, which is a block-based coding platform. So it's very similar to Scratch if you have seen Scratch. And the nice thing, one of the nice things about Gamefroot is that it is a New Zealand-based company. So a whole lot of their content and tutorials is New Zealand specific, which is great. And so they actually created this Mihi Maker tutorial with some help from staff at Te Papa as well. And the idea is that you follow a long tutorial, thinking about your mihi, thinking about your identity, who you are, where you're from, what you connect to, and you basically fill in the blanks. But you're getting to see the inner workings of the code behind the game that you are using. So it's building up familiarity with that and with the way that block-based coding works. If we are going to jump into a tutorial all about building our mihi, then the best thing that we could do is scaffold that with some resources around mihi and pepeha. So I've just chucked a bunch of links down here to for anyone to have a look at. It's a really great thing to do for yourself. It's a really great thing to share with your learners. This last link down here, pepeha.nz, this is where you can create your beautiful looking pepeha image as I have in the center here. So if you're interested in doing that for yourself, then that's where to go. And there's lots on the reomari.co.nz website resources around it. And obviously with Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori coming up, this is a really great place to start, to just consider who we are, where we're from, and to be able to introduce ourselves in spaces that should have more Te Reo Māori spoken. When we're talking about coding as well, I really like to relate it to language. So Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori is a great context for that. Coding is just another language, and rather than communicating with humans, it's how we're communicating with machines, and enables us to have the power to actually create in a machine space, in a computational space. And it's really important moving forward that more different people have a voice in the architecture of society. So every digital way that we communicate, which is the vast majority of the ways that we're communicating right now, this has all been created. All of these interfaces have been created by humans using machines. And the people who are making these tools and resources, they are not as diverse as they could be all around the world. So we need to get more different people involved in creating the architecture of our society for a more balanced and fair society moving forward. So I think it's pretty important for more people to understand how to communicate with machines, how to build these systems that we're using every day, and how to represent more different people. So I'm going to click on the Mihi Maker picture here, and I'm going to take us through to the Gamefroot website. And I've already signed in, but there should be a little sign in button up here if you haven't already signed in. You're very welcome to just watch the video and do this for yourself later, or to sign in for yourself and follow along. So if you sign in and go to start creating, it'll take you to the dashboard on Gamefroot, and you'll see that they have a bunch of different templates that you can start with. You can also just start a completely blank game for yourself and just jump into the code and see what kind of a mess you can make. The Mihi Maker itself is down here. Learn to introduce yourself in Te Reo Māori by making a game about yourself. So I'm just going to click through some of this to give you an idea about what it looks like and how it works, but I'm not going to go through the entire thing. So it loads up the design interface like this, and on the right hand side is where we find our tutorials, and this is all the information we need to be able to do the Mihi Maker. It's written from the perspective that you don't know anything about Gamefroot or coding, so it's good for absolute beginners. And if we're going to do this with students or learners at Te Papa, we would always get students to sit two students to a computer. That way they can help each other read and understand the instructions, but also it's an opportunity for them to get to know each other better and to learn things about themselves. So we're going to jump in. Let's go. And it loads, it fetches all the game data, fetches all the information, also gives me the opportunity to create a name. So I'm going to call this Donald's Mihi. So I can name my project so I can save it later. Fantastic, save successful. And down here, testing your game, click the play button above and wait for your game to load. To help you get started, we've made a Pepeha template for you to complete. You'll have to fill in the blanks in Gamefroot, click the close button to exit play mode. When you've completed this section, click next step below. And so there's a whole lot of instructions here about how you can edit scripts and things. I can click play up here, and this will load up the game as it stands at the moment. And it's just like a little platform level. So I can use my arrow keys on my computer to run and jump. My little character, and it explains what a Mihi is as well. There's a lovely flying kiddo, and some mountains, and a river, and an ocean. And a waka comes along. And so these are all things that I will get to name as it goes on. So I jump out and I keep on running. And there's some flags. There's all kinds of things to discover. So I'm going to close that as the instructions said. And this says, don't forget to save your game regularly by clicking File, Save Game. Everybody needs that reminder. I don't know the number of times I've failed to save my games. When Māori set up their homes in this new land, they took note of the important landmarks such as mountains. Find and click the Move Tool button. It looks like a hand. And basically, all of the instructions that you need should be in there. If you can read the instructions, then you can do the activity. And I found the maunga, so I can, by clicking and dragging. Okay, find the red circle with the number 1 in it. Great. Right click on the red circle and select Edit Script from the drop down option. So I can right click on the red circle and find Edit Script. And this is what it looks like behind the scenes. So if you've seen Scratch, if you played with Scratch coding before, then this is going to look reasonably similar for you. The names of the groupings of blocks is slightly different, but it's based on the same language. So the language is Google Blockly. That's what actually sits behind both Scratch and Gamefroot. And Gamefroot have used that language to design their own setup of blocks, and they're coming at it from a space of wanting to give people slightly more control over what's happening. Scratch can be limited in some ways. All languages can, and Gamefroot wanted to give people like a more refined breakdown of the language. So this is some example blocks, and the next instruction is, this script has already been programmed, so all you need to do is add the name of your manga. Click on the blue block inside the block named set text manga 2 underscore and type in the name of your manga. So set global text manga. This is the only one that's empty, so that's the one I'm going to look into, and I'm going to type in the name of my manga. So the Eildons are some mountains in the Scottish borders, so southeast of Scotland, and there is not a lot. There's quite a lot of rolling hills in the borders, but kind of right in the center of the borders, there are 3 mountains which lie together, and they're just a very obvious landmark from anywhere. And they were given a name by the Romans who marched through over 2,000 years ago, and they called them Trimontium, as in 3 mountains, and they built a hill fort on top of them. And so that's where I'm from. I'm from a place that had Romans. And when I was in primary school, we got to visit a Roman dig site, which was very exciting. Learn about the history and archaeology of where I grew up. So that's a little about me. And now that I've done that, what does it say next? It says click the play button to preview your game. So I can click play. Yes. And so something should change now that I've added that. So launching my game again, running along. Yeah, there we go. For Eildon's Toku Manga. And if anyone is good at their Te Reo Mari, they'll notice there's a few macrons missing. I actually just yesterday told Gamefroot that they were missing some macrons. So I would love it if anyone feels so inclined to perfect their Te Reo Mari and check the missing macrons on this tutorial, because I think it's a real shame when macrons are missing, and it's always valuable to have people who are willing to do that kind of copy edit work, because it helps us all. So there's a few macrons missing in this, which means it's not perfect, and so you don't have to be perfect at coding either. You can give it a go and see what you can come up with. And once you've done that, there's lots of, so I can go back, if I ever want to get back to things, this arrow is where I want to go. And that brings me back to this like level interface. And there's lots of things that you can add and edit. As you go through the instructions here, it will explain how you can add your own assets to Gamefroot, and how you can change things up. You can also just try and break things just for the fun of it. That's what it's there for. Can you add type para in before the action? Gamefroot is very, Gamefroot is very easy to use. It's completely free and open source. You just need a Google account. If you have a Google account, you can get into it. Also, just log in with an email and password. And the nice thing about this is that you can add your own levels as well. So if you want, you can add a level up here, create new level, and you can drag these levels around. And so I can reorder them as I like, and so you could have anything. You could launch the game in one level and make the and have some other playthrough before the PPH if you want. You could set it up so that you basically do an animation of a space, or you could have the first level that you land on could be a photograph of where you're from, or wherever you like. But I would recommend starting with one of the tutorials and just seeing what questions that makes you ask. And if one of the questions is, can you add a para in before the actual PPH, then that's great. You can figure that out for yourself. I wonder why the macron was present in the original text but disappeared from Donald's edited version. That's a good question. I love good questions. So yes, we can keep on going. There's exactly. So in this version, it's there is a macron on the toku, but not on the other one. And that's because the way that they've set up this tutorial, they've actually cheated. So there is a whole lot of code behind the scenes, which is enabling this to run. And they're giving you access to very small pieces of code that allow you to actually edit things. So there are much more complicated pieces of code. If I have a look at the player controls code, this is one of the pieces which basically enables this whole thing to run. So I'm gonna, if I click on edit code, this is, and you can see all of their, all of the writing that they were doing as well behind the scenes. Oops. So this is all of the code behind the scenes, which is just there to make the player character and do all of the player character things. And you'll see there's masses and masses of code, but it's all in nice discrete little blocks. And you could probably have a play in here as well in your own game and just like break stuff and see what happens. And you'll learn tons, which is great. So Gamefroot's really, I really like the language that they've come up with for these tutorials, and I like the way that it builds into something that's really meaningful for people as well. So I'm going to jump back to my webinar, and I'm going to talk a little bit about possible extensions and things to play with, because everything has a million directions that you can go in, as I'm sure lots of people have got lots of questions. And I'm just going to do this hopefully in like 2 minutes, and then we can answer a few questions as well. So coding extensions, Gamefroot and Scratch, I don't see as competitors for each other. I see them both as really valuable, kind of two sides to a very similar coin. And anything that you can do in Gamefroot, you should be able to achieve in Scratch. And if you try and do that, then you will be learning an awful lot more about both languages. You'll be learning about the limitations of each and also the possibilities of each. And you'll also be doing a lot of really good problem solving work. There's most people who are working as programmers and coding, they need to know more than one language, and they need to understand the value of the different languages that they are using. In the same way that people, multilinguists, need to know more than one language and the ways that they translate from one language to another. So that's a really powerful skill. And the fact that both Scratch and Gamefroot are accessible and free to use is awesome. So it gives you that power. The nice thing, one of the nice things about Scratch is that you can actually convert the language of the entire interface of Scratch into Tutti. So if you are someone who is working with fluent speakers or working with people who want to develop their fluency, you can just change the language of Scratch into Tutti and then just see what you can figure out. Even if you're just trying and failing, understanding language being used in context is really powerful. You could also, with both Gamefroot and Scratch, coding a conversation between two sprites or characters or people is really interesting. How do you do that? What do you use to figure out the pauses that happen as different people are speaking? How do you appropriately phrase questions and answers? Lots of people need help with being able to phrase questions appropriately, especially young kids. We find at Papa, so that could be some work that could happen in that. And using Scratch to show language being used in a context like an animated story. So this picture here, if you click on it, will actually take you to a Scratch project that I created last year, all about Whakairo. And Scratch the cat meets Hi Hi Tingeru. and Hi has some interesting things to share with Scratch. And so you can click on that, have a look at that project. The nice thing about Scratch is that you can basically copy and tinker onto other people's projects. So if you click on that, you should be able to get access to it, and you should be able to copy it and change it for your own purposes if you like. And it's kind of like a 3-scene cartoon sort of thing that you can play with. More extensions and coding. If you go through the Rarangamatiko website, Rarangamatiko is a project that Te Papa have been doing for about 3.5 years now, working. That's a contract that we have with the Ministry of Education, giving low decile schools pretty much in situ professional development with digital technology and integrated curriculum. And we have a whole lot of resources attached to that, including some episodes from the Home Learning TV that we filmed last year during lockdown. So there's a whole lot of really great things there. And yeah, there's just tons of opportunities with this. So I'm just going to zip through to the next slide. Whoop. Try to anyway. Oh yeah, there we go. It is time for you to play. It's tutti time. So that brings us to 12:30. I think that you should all find some time this afternoon to jump onto Gamefroot and have a play, see what you can figure out for yourself, have a think about some interesting context that you can use it in. And I would love to know something you learned from this webinar, something you enjoyed about it, something that we could do better for next time. If you have a play with any Gamefroot stuff, please share it with us. You can email me directly. I emailed you all at the links, so feel free to email me any successes or failures you have, or take a screenshot and share it to the Papa Learning Facebook page. That would be lovely. If you have any feedback, this feedback form link, I would love it if you could fill it in. Maybe Jess could copy and paste that into the chat as well for people who want it. But that brings us to 12:30, and I promise this is going to be a half-hour webinar. So if you want to stick around and ask questions, Jess is going to relay them to me so I don't get distracted by all the chat typing. And you can stick around for question time if you like. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Donald. So we did have a question. Do you know if Gamefroot is in Te Reo Māori, if we can get that tutorial in Te Reo Māori?
I do not believe it is currently available in Te Reo Māori, but I'm sure it is something that they would love to have. So if you are someone who likes that kind of translation work, or knows someone who is interested, then you could totally get in touch with Gamefroot and suggest it to them. Dan Millward is the CEO of Gamefroot, and he is all over LinkedIn all the time. So if you want to bug him about stuff that's either could be changed or edited, or you want to ask him any questions, then LinkedIn is a really good way to get hold of Dan. And he's, yeah, very excitable and very enthusiastic. So
great. And then the other question we had was, what year groups would you recommend this for?
I feel like Gamefroot is, the language of it is slightly more advanced than Scratch. So like, I feel like if you have juniors, kind of junior primary up to kind of year 3, and they haven't done coding before, I would definitely start them on Scratch Junior. And then once they're starting to advance beyond Scratch Junior, then having a look at Scratch, and kind of year 4s, kind of aged kind of like 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, I would start kind of pushing them to look into Gamefroot. There's some really great tutorials in there. But saying that, we have had a reasonable amount of success just throwing kids, especially if they're working together and working collaboratively, just throwing them at Gamefroot and seeing what they can do with it. The tutorials are, the tutorials are reasonably simple to follow. And as long as you've got kids who are working together and can read and follow instructions, then Gamefroot is fine.
Great, that's about it. I guess if anybody else has any questions, post them in now. I've put a link to the feedback form and also the link to the slides. But yeah, thank you so much, Donald.
Awesome, brilliant. Lovely to see all the thank yous coming through. It's great. Awesome. Well, hopefully I will see some more of you this afternoon at 3 o'clock for playing with stop motion animation. It is the most fun. So hopefully see you all there and enjoy your lunchtimes.